Thanks a lot for being on our show, and very excited to learn about how you have started a fund of your own, being a woman. And since we know that the world is not so receptive to women in private equity and venture capital, and that's not me saying, that's the numbers stating it. We see very few representation of women at the leadership level in this industry, and that's why we have launched this series called WIPE, which means Women in Private Equity and Enterprise, to cover the journeys of different women who have reached the helm, and to know what were the challenges they faced and how is it that other women can also look up to them. So that's the purpose for us doing these. And you were one of the names suggested by our audience in the European region, because they really look up to you. And one thing that women face is that they don't have role models and mentors in their own organizations or otherwise, and that's why they don't have that ambition and power inside them to drive or lead some change in this industry. So yeah, I hope with these interviews we can bring that out, and very excited to hear about your journey.
Great to be here.
Right. So, starting with how your journey has been, if you could just give us some instances of how did you start your career right after education, and till date, how do you manage your work?
Yeah, so I studied in Munich business, and right after that I went to McKinsey, which was at that point in time also a very male place, but already a place with also some great women. And I did industrial topics, automotive, all that stuff. And after around 8 years, I decided to move, and I moved on to Rocket Internet, which was at that point in time was one of the most successful digital platforms here in Europe. And there I was leading the incubation business and also the global HR team. And at that point in time, I started angel investing. And but I still went on an operational path. So I worked for HelloFresh, and I built up my own software company. And I realized that not only the operational world is still very male dominated, but even more is the financing side of it and investing. Yeah. And I really didn't get that so much, because I feel that in the investing, especially in early stage, you actually need a lot of skills that are supposed to be very female. So it's a lot about the founders and the founding team, and do they have the skills, but also the motivation and the values to build a big and high value company. And it's a lot about networking and this combination of course, data, and you need to do your numbers and so on, but also always combined with soft skills, which is, I think, something that we are in general very strong in. But I realized that's not really the case. So I made the decision to move on the investment side of things, and spoke to some funds. But I was not really overwhelmed by the ecosystem, especially here in Berlin. And that was one reason for me to say, okay, I'll go on this journey and raise my own fund. We are a climate tech fund, so focusing on all companies that lead to direct climate emissions. We are 5 partners, 2 women, 3 men. And it's not easy to start your own fund. It's a long journey and an expensive journey, but I'm very happy that we made it.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's not easy to raise capital and get the investor confidence, especially being a woman. There are so many notions that surround a man's head, that will she be able to manage the capital? How will she manage work and life together? So, did you encounter any of these thoughts in your meetings while raising capital? Of course, you've been a seasonal professional now, so it might not be that hard for you to convince investors of your metal. But for those who are just starting about raising funds for them, any advice that you'd like to give?
Yeah. So I think raising a first-time fund is always very difficult, and it was also not easy for us, but it might have all helped that we have 2 women on the team, because that's also a differentiator. So we have one differentiator is that we are climate tech and have a very strong reporting system and so on behind that. And the other thing is definitely that we are 2 women and not just one who ticks the box. So in this real fundraising journey, I would not say that I hear or felt this. I had this way more when I was considering to join existing funds. So it was very obvious to me that it was hard for the male-dominated partner groups to see me or any other woman in the partner group. Yeah.
So what can you explain to us some of the experiences that you faced while you were wanting to join other funds?
Yeah, so I think the most extreme for me was that I was with one fund, I was really in interview rounds, and at the end they told me, we do not believe that you as a young mother with 2 small kids can do this job. And I was like, what? I mean, this is not just me. This is such a fundamental thing. Yeah. So this would mean that women who become partner in a VC or PE funds can't have kids. Yeah. And why? We did not even discuss about my work model or how much I can travel or how late I can work. Yeah. That was not even the topic. It was just, we think it won't work. Yeah. and I was super shocked. And then actually an hour later, my husband said, hey, Doerte, you can be so happy. Just imagine they would have hired you. You would have become so unhappy. And the moment, you know, they would never, when you bring a deal, they would never like it because they would always say, hey, it's from her. It's not the same class. When if there's really once your daughter's sick and you stay at home, they would say, oh, we knew it. Yeah, she can't work as we can. Yeah, because she has the kids. So it was, of course, very good at the end that I didn't join the fund, but it's not good for the also younger women in these funds, yeah, who are just looking up to men and to the work style and the working hours that are just normal and the norm, and that very often just feel, hey, I don't get enough coaching support, I don't have any role models, and I don't know how this should work if I ever get kids. Yeah. And that's very, very sad. Yeah. And I hear that a lot from women that I speak to.
Yeah, that's a sad reality as to why are the same questions not asked to men, even they are parents, right? Not like only a mother is a parent for the child, but I don't know why does this happen. Do you think there is some reason behind this thinking that a man has?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in Germany, the traditional role model is still dominant. I work now in a Scandinavia-dominated team. So 3 out of 5 partners are from Scandinavia. And there it is the total opposite. There it's way more normal that men pick up their kids from childcare. And for example, our internal meetings do all happen between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Yeah, so that's the rule. And if there's something that we need to discuss at 5 or 6, then people would ask me, this is not normal. Of course, we work longer. It's not that we all stop working at 4, but then afterwards it's more flexible, and people know that, okay, sometimes you work then and sometimes you maybe work late in the evening when the kids are in bed, and it's just a whole different thinking. And here I know of many funds who say, hey, we start our weekly IC meetings at 4 p.m. because then we have the whole evening to sit together and do the stuff. And of course, as a mother, that's already a difficult thing if you're in a fund where once or twice a week you have a blocker from 4 p.m. until endless. Yeah, so that's just not nice. And on top come the travel and the dinner networking and all that stuff that I of course also do and also do in the evening. So I think it's still the mindset that, yes, of course women work, but they work a bit, and they are the ones who make the compromises, and that's still very much in the head of people. And of course, if you want to change the system, it's not just that you need to change it for the women. You also need to change the men. So the male partners also need to say, okay, I'll stay a few weeks or months at home, or I'll have some afternoons off or whatsoever. So you need to change the whole system, and that is not so easy for many. Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you think can we bring about this change? Like you said, even men should take up the onus of, doing the same responsibilities as a woman does for their child. So that's not the case, though. So how can we bring about this kind of a change where there's an equal world and such cases are not encountered by younger generation who might become mothers going forward?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we need to think in smaller steps. Yeah. So I would also say my husband and me, we don't do it 50-50. Yeah. It's probably sometimes 70-30, sometimes 80-20. But the more important thing is that when I need his flexibility, and when I say, hey, I have something important, or when there's a child sick and one of us needs to stay at home, that we have an open discussion. Yeah. And I still feel that my relationship as a mother to my kids is very special, and I'm the most important person for them, and that's also what I want. Yeah, I would be very sad if they would like my nanny more than me, or yeah. So that is a very special relationship, especially in the first years. But I think that's also okay. Yeah. So when you think about your average work week, I'm very sure everybody knows the 5 to 10 hours that are not productive and that you could cut away relatively easily. Yeah. And the question is much more that when you have kids, that you know relatively well which are these hours that you maybe don't need and just feel you should do the call or whatsoever. Yeah. And then it's actually, yeah, you can also reach the same productivity with a few hours less. And the other thing is that, yeah, then you need a partner who supports, but it does not mean that it has to be all equal. Yeah. So I think it's a journey, and but it starts with simple things like, hey, our internal meetings stop at 4. Yeah. Or yeah, or travel. Yeah. So I heard about a fund who said, hey, we want to build up more business in London. So one KPI became that you travel twice a month to London. I was like, what? That's not an, if you, the goal should be that you, I don't know, have 5 or 10 great companies in the IC meetings the year from London, yeah, or whatsoever. But it shouldn't be an input parameter like how often you travel to London. That's bullshit, yeah. You need to find your own ways, and maybe you find the best female founders from London in remote sessions, because they also love it that they that they can meet their investors remote. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's what you need to change.
Right. Yeah, that's so wonderfully put across. And I think just thinking about a big revolutionary change won't lead us to anywhere. And taking that small baby steps always helps. You never know how that small drops can make an ocean and can help you at the later stage. But speaking of travel, I'm sure you must have traveled across different countries. But the place where you are in currently, Germany, how is that in terms of opportunities for women?
So I think the corporate Germany has changed because they were quite harsh top-down targets. So when I started my career at McKinsey in the automotive industry, in these huge automotive clients, I was usually one of very few women, and they have drastically changed it. So they have empowered women a lot, and they have also prioritized their careers over male careers. So corporate Germany is better by now. Also on the political side, most parties, not all, have brought quite an amount of successful women. It has not yet happened that much in investing and also in the startup scene. So there the numbers are still low, and also the capital that women raise is still low. And I think this is a combination of biases on the investor side, because they are also male, but also that female founders tend to focus on sectors that have not been in investment focuses so far. So they invested a lot in food tech, they invested a lot in health. They are also very conscious about the environment. So in some segments, I see some more female founders in our climate tech space. So I hope that this could also be an angle to bring in more female founders, because they like the mission behind their companies. But on the other hand, we also see that a lot of if you want to fight climate change, you cannot do that only with software. You need hardware, and you need real engineers and very technical skills. And when you go to these things which require mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, and so on, you again are in a very male pond. Yeah. So, but my hope is that more women also in these with these backgrounds and education join this climate tech movement and build their own companies. And on the investor side, I see the new funds, especially in climate tech, but also beyond, have way more female partners and founders. So I actually expect a revolution from the side. Yeah. So in Germany, a lot of funds have been founded 20 years ago or so. So in the first 99, 2000 boom. And they have now all a generation shift. And many of them seem to stay very male with this generation shift. But it might also be that the new ones with the women take quite some market share from them. Yeah, so I expect the revolution there rather to come from the new ones.
Got it. You also mentioned about the fact that when you were working at McKinsey in the automotive sector, there weren't many women around. So did you have a tough time dealing with only men in the room, or was it relatively easier for you because the company culture at McKinsey is such that it enables every gender and doesn't discriminate? But I'd just like to know how the environment was back then when there were not many women in the sector.
So I think there were positives and negatives, yeah. So I was very young and looked very young at this point in time, and I think people, when you come with this McKinsey stamp, everybody knows you're smart, and you have a lot of plus points, and it was sometimes easier. So the male McKinsey smart guy was sometimes seen as a bit weird, and I think many clients and people I interacted liked me and liked the combination of women and McKinsey. So that opened many doors, and you also stick out of the crowd. Yeah. So the senior manager at the client will remember me, but probably not the male associate next to me, yeah, who's another guy in a suit. But of course, the question. So when I was then on the journey towards partner and all, and there was this question, can she build up relationships to the senior guys in the industry to also sell projects and all that stuff? I think the question was definitely there, but at that point in time, McKinsey was already trying to support women, so I felt overall well supported, and that was all good, I would say. Yeah, I think at McKinsey, the problem still is there. So especially in Germany, there are too few women, and the one big reason is the family thing, and that it's just very tough with a lot of traveling. They have part-time models and all that stuff, but it's a job that never ends, and where you get client requests at every time of the day, and it's just not so easy. So they try it hard. And then you also see when a woman has been McKinsey partner or junior partner, they are very, very attractive to all kinds of headhunters and corporates who approach them. So they have very good exit options typically. I think that's another reason why there are not so many female McKinsey partners. Yeah, but overall, it is a supportive environment, I would say.
Yeah, got it. But many people don't get to the level where you have reached. So looking back upon your journey, what were some of the things that worked in your favor? And what do you think are some of the things that women in Germany especially are not able to reach to the top because they lack certain things, maybe family support or lack of opportunities, or is it the lack of skill sets?
No, I wouldn't say the lack of skill sets. Yeah, so the education is very well, and women are better educated than men. I also don't think it's the family support and all that. So I don't come from a rich family. I come from a super normal family. I think one thing is definitely ambition, and also that a certain you need to stick to what you want to achieve, even if something does not go so well. Yeah, and you so reaching an attractive position and having a career, that's never easy, also not for men. Yeah, so it's you sometimes need to do more than others. You sometimes need to overperform. You sometimes don't like someone and still have to work with him or her and convince him or her that you're doing a great thing. So and that's the case, I think, for everyone. And I know quite some women who at some point then say, okay, then I'll go a bit to the sideline. Yeah, I still do my job well and all that stuff, but I'm and either I start look for a new job or whatsoever. I think you need to be a bit more sticky, and also I was always very rigorous to myself, and continued doing this. So when we raised this fund, this took so from the time I started until the first closing, this was like 20 months, so which is a long period, and it's not easy to keep yourself motivated and to continue doing that and take the next call with a potential investor in the fund with the same motivation and just get it done. And I think that's what's required, and that's also required when you start a company and you are a founder. There will be difficult times. There will be times where you feel, I don't have the answer for my employees. I would rather like to stay at home, or not work on this topic for a bit. No, you have to go on, And I think that's one important thing, And to a certain degree, you of course also need to do that when you have small kids and when you get the kids and all that stuff, So which makes it much harder, because you will have some years without good sleep. And then it's even harder to say, I'll get up and have this call and I do it very well. And you can of course ask for some, so for some time with your kids and for some compromises and certain things everybody will understand. But the core things, the most important things in your job, you still need to do excellent. You can cancel some calls here and there, but when you're a founder, you will still need to do the fundraising. You still need to hire really great people, and that you cannot not do just because you didn't sleep well because of your small daughter.
That's so true. But you also said that you see a lot of women in climate tech, unlike men in other tech sectors like edtech, fintech, or even health tech for that matter. But why do you think are women more inclined towards an impact-based business rather than just a cash burning or a revenue generating business? Do you think those qualities of being a woman makes you enter into a particular segment which is more impact oriented than money oriented?
I think there are some studies on motivations of people, and in general, you see that this pure money and the quantitative stuff is something that incentivizes men way more. Also hierarchy and titles and stuff like that the male world that we live in is made of, is something that a lot of women would not care so much about. And I think the world is slowly changing, but only slowly. So a lot of women choose to select a great mission, and I think that is so great. And our planet wouldn't be there without all the women also in the past who have selected great missions to work on. And then I think it's now the question of the system and the money and so on to also value that and give them the opportunity and also support these sectors in a professional manner so that they can grow and become as big and as successful as they should, because there's no reason why the next food delivery thing should receive more money and be more profitable than a great health tech innovation that reaches millions of people.
That's right. But coming to your fun story, how did you find your partners, especially the women partner that you have?
So we actually were all on a similar mission. We wanted to start an own fund, and we wanted to do that in a sustainable and tech-focused area. And this was during COVID, and we were spread throughout Europe. So we were introduced through mutual friends and contacts, and we actually really met on video calls. And I had the first video call with my two Danish colleagues who were a bit the nucleus of the fund, I think 4 weeks after I gave birth to my daughter. So this was I was still on this, I softly start working. I do a few calls here and there. And then I had this call and I thought, hey, this could really be a great team fit. And then we started working. We started to work on the strategy for the fund, speak with the potential anchor investors. We did first investments together. And the first half year was completely remote because it was during winter 2021, where it was not even allowed to travel throughout Europe. So we only met after half a year. Then we picked up speed. Yeah, we met with the anchor investors. We made all the pitch materials and met regularly in one of the cities that were based. And yeah, how it started.
Oh, that's so cool. So, what is it that you look in a founder before investing in their company? What are some of the key metrics that really catch your attention?
So typically, so we do climate tech. So we do a lot of technical things, hardware or software that has a relatively strong technical component. So the first thing that I always want to see is this combination of technical excellence and business/growth mindset. Yeah, and this can be in one founder, or this can also be in the team somehow. Yeah, but you have many of these engineering teams who have find great solutions and so on, but you also need this person who has this ambition to make this grow really big and make this a venture case. Yeah, because otherwise it's too hard to for venture capital. Yeah, we need to exit the fund after 10 years, so we can only really invest in companies that scale very quickly in these first 5 years. So that is the first thing. And then the other thing is the team dynamics. So in these kind of settings, you have typically more diverse teams. Yeah, it could, and with diverse, I don't only mean gender, I also mean education background and sometimes age and so on. And I really like diverse teams, and I think that's what's required in many of the climate tech things. But it's always harder to work in diverse teams, because if you know each other for 10 years, you went to college together and all that stuff, you think alike, it will be very easy and smooth to work, but you will often make the same mistakes and the same things well. So that's not the optimum. But it's when you are different, you will definitely discuss more, argue more, and sometimes also agree to disagree. It will be harder, and I need to see that the team can handle that and balance that, and because it will be tough, to grow this company, and there will be difficult phases, and then they need to have some strategies to overcome that.
But how do you get to know the team dynamics just through the founder?
So of course, it's hard to do that just with investor interviews and stuff like that. But I think a core thing is to meet the team jointly, ideally in person, actually. Yeah, I think it makes a difference. And to ask open questions and be very observant on how they answer and so on. Yeah, so I at my McKinsey time, I did trainings on interviews, and the core method there that I still use in all interviews when I hire someone, but also to a certain degree with founders, is that you ask for historic situations in a very open way. So for example, you would say a founder, so what was the most difficult situation that you faced so far as a company, and how did you solve it? And then you try to just listen, and listen how they react and how they also interact and so on. And I think this is a technology, if you use that and if you have some training in it, where you can already get quite some hints on how things are. And then of course, if you have certain hypotheses where problems might lay, then you can dig deeper or do some reference calls or so on. And I mean, you can, if you really want to invest, you can go quite deep into due diligence typically. Times are back to normal, so deals making takes a bit longer, so you also have time to do reference calls and all that stuff.
Yeah. Since you evaluate both the men and women founders, what difference do you realize when they're pitching? Is there some difference which comes as a part of your biological gender difference as well?
Cool. So I would say, I think there are two different types of pitchers. If I put them in big categories. One is the well-trained business guy. Yeah, it can also be a woman, but someone who has done that before, who knows how to do PowerPoint, who knows how to present, who has maybe gotten some coaching on that. Yeah, so it's all very well rounded and so on. And then you have the more unstructured people that often start with their personal story and the passion for their project. And I think you have more of these professional business guys as men, but you also have women, and when you have men who are more on the storytelling mode, it's often engineers, yeah, or people who went to this classical business schools, and you also have that with women, yeah. So yeah, and yeah, that I would say that's probably the biggest difference, yeah.
Got it. And if you could just also explain us about what kind of businesses do you back up? What's your check size? And at what stage would you like to come in? Do you also do follow-on rounds in your portfolio companies? And also talk a little bit about one or two of your best portfolio companies and how did you source them and get to know of them before you invested?
Yeah. So we do 1 to 5 million euro initial ticket, and then we have money for follow-on rounds. So we do seed and Series A investments. And we do everything that has a very big potential to reduce climate gases. Yeah, so that's the most important criteria, and this can be in a relatively broad range of sectors. This can be food tech, this can be energy related, it can be packaging, mobility. So all these topics are in scope. And the first two investments that I did in our fund, one is a company called Continuum, and they have developed a mechanical solution to recycle the huge blades of wind turbines. Yeah, so wind turbines have a lifespan of 20 to 25 years, and here in the north of Europe, you have a lot of them, and a lot will come down now. And this is the first recycling technology that exists. And the second investment that I did was in a company called 1.5, and they are developing paper-based alternatives for plastic packaging. So yeah, so of course we use way too much plastic in all the stuff that we package, especially in food. And it's not so easy to make everything paper-based because you need different types of coatings to make it still durable. And yeah, that's what they do. So they're building a platform and a system to have the right coatings for every packaging that we need on Earth.
Got it. And any stories do you have where you met the founder by chance, maybe in the metro, subway, or maybe in some university, in a competition, at a speech? Do you have such unique stories of how you met your founders?
Yeah, so maybe what is one funny story, so 1.5, the second company that I just mentioned. So I actually did an angel investment 1.5 years ago when the company was just founded. And I met the two founders, Martin and Claire. And I found out in the first call that Martin comes from exactly the same village that I come from. Yeah. So, and it's like a 3,000 people village it's really small, and it's really not a place. It's also not close to Berlin. And I think I made my initial decision to make an angel check was 50% based on that. Yeah, because I liked it so much that he was from this place. I also like them, and they were worked before for Infarm, so for a unicorn, and I had the strong idea that they could develop a similar story for 1.5 and so on. But it was that was really funny, and it's true that when you have such a strange connection, that this is also something that does something with the relationship, and that it gives it a certain trust even from the start. So I think although I had a mini angel ticket in them, I think I was an important investor. And then when we finally closed our fund, Martin immediately made up space in the investment round to still let us in because he also wanted me on the board and in the company. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have any anti-portfolios where you've missed out investing in some of the companies and then later on you realized, oh shit, I should have, looked at the company more closely and might have made an investment?
Yeah, not with the fund yet. In my angel times, it was after 6 or 8 weeks of COVID. There was a company who presented a new web conferencing technology. Yeah, so it was basically meant for small conferences where you have different rooms, and the idea was to have something that is better than Zoom or the other tools that we use to mimic the events where you go into small rooms and so on. And I had a long debate, and the investment decisions on our angel portfolio I do together with my husband, and we said, but this COVID thing will not go on forever. Now the summer comes and the world will go back to normal. And then if this is great, then anyway, the Zooms and Googles will just copy it. And this will require so much money and so on. So we did not invest, but obviously COVID took much longer. And this is actually, this is a company that raised now quite some money and is doing quite well, I guess. So that was probably the biggest miss, yeah.
Got it, got it. All right. So, and when we speak of the seed rounds, how do you source the deals at such an early stage? Because they're not so widely known in the market, and you're still figuring out as to how do you find these gems, So, how do you do that? What are your sources generally to, back the best founders?
Yeah. So, of course, we have a website where companies can apply. We also go to conferences where we meet companies and are always open to meet new people. And I always try to be nicer to women than to men. So whenever I see or speak a company that has a female founder, I will give them a higher chance to get on my radar. And but I have to say the best deals come typically from my network. So founders that recommend them, angel investors or pre-seed seed funds. And as a VC fund, you get really hundreds of deals every week, yeah? And you have to be unfair, unfortunately. I find that very tough, yeah? But we have to decline many very quickly, yeah? And I'm very sure that we do some unfair things there. But I can only advise all great female founders to try to use their network, yeah, and try to look up at LinkedIn who knows this fund, who knows someone, and can they intro me and so on, because this is a way to get out of the math, yeah, and to get a bit more attention span that you sometimes need, yeah, because a lot of this seed investing, you don't have many figures, yeah, so you have a product, a vision, a founder team. So you need to, or I as an investor, I need to feel there could be something special in this case. Yeah, and this can come from different sides. This can come because I just think this founder really rocks it. This can come because someone suggests this company to me that I trust and where I think, okay, if he likes that, then there must be something in it. Yeah, it can be, a technology that just seems mind-blowing, yeah, but this special thing must come across, and that's going through relationship is one way to get there, yeah.
Yeah, but when we speak of network, women usually feel a little bit awkward to socialize, at least when there are men in the room and not many women. And in the private equity or VC, it's all about your network. And it also requires you to sometimes go for a coffee or maybe for a drink with your male counterparts in the same industry. But sometimes people get the hints differently. They think that, oh, is the women trying to, catch hold of me for something else apart from work? So how do you get rid of that notion? Because there are so many women whom I have spoken to, and they feel that although they go for work, but they have not been taken that seriously because they have stepped out of their office and have met somewhere else. But meeting somewhere else is a part of networking, and if they don't do that, how else will they grow? So how do you think in this be, get gotten into a right place? And have you ever faced any of such challenge while networking while you were young?
Yeah. So I think I did it anyway, yeah. So so I did not do too many dinner meetings, with one man or so. I think that I would only do if the relationship is relatively cleared out. But lunch and coffee and walks, I would just do it, and of course you can for the first sometimes maybe make it something with 3 people or so, but I would just do it, and of course make it in public safe places and so on. But I think I can very well understand that this is something, if you experience it and you experience a weird situation, that this is not nice. But I would also assume that there are 20, 30 next meetings will be just normal. So I would not, it can happen. And it's also, sometimes it's also, it does not mean that this man is super awkward. Maybe, he got a hint where there was none. Of course, if he touched you or so, that is bad. But if he just thinks a coffee is not just a coffee, then just tell him, and it will also be probably weird for him. And okay, then it's one out of some that ended a bit strange. So I would still do it, because there will be so many more that will be normal. And most men are like that. And also sometimes the more senior men are also a bit older and more settled, and I think that's even more rare. Of course, it also happens that a 50-year-old gets strange, but it's even less so. So, and I think it's sometimes they will be more open to have a coffee with you as a woman than with men. So just try it out and do it. And then, of course, there are not just these coffee and lunch sessions one-on-one. There are also events, where you just go and have a talk or something like that. And I think that's even more natural to go there and be there and talk with people.
Yeah, right. Having a positive outlook always helps, because doesn't mean that if you have had a one bad day, your entire year will be bad. It's just one day. There are another 364 days ahead of us. Maybe thinking that will help. But speaking of the capital pool available for women founders, why is it so less? Is it because women founders in itself is less, that's why the 2% figure comes into picture? Or is it because people don't want to trust women with their money? Especially if you look at women founders, they're usually between this sweet spot of 25 to 35, where they are either getting married or raising kids while running their business. So is that what holds investors back from putting the money? Or why is it that we have such lesser opportunities available for women founders?
I think it's all of this, So I think if you look at the numbers, it depends by geography and so on. There are definitely less businesses that are founded by women. And then also when you look in the segments that are primarily VC focused, it's even fewer women. But it's also there, it's still a big gap, So between the founders that are there and raising money and the money that is given to them. So it's definitely also the biases, and it's too many men making the decisions. So it's all of this, and we need to tackle everything, and on all dimensions. Of course, the most unfair part is the one with the biases and the male-dominated IC meetings.
Oh yeah. Have you been a part of any of those while you were climbing up the ladder of your career?
I mean, I've never worked in a male-dominated VC fund, So I can only I only hear it from stories and so on. So no, I can't say that in this dimension. So I mean, I was in committees where we hired people and stuff like that, and I think there it was already always very much focus on reducing these biases, so very professional and so on. And I think, but I just hear that there's not the same amount of professionalism in most of the IC meetings.
Do you know of networks or forums in your own country which is specifically women oriented to empower them and get more opportunities for them? Are there any networks?
Oh, there are many networks. I'm not the best with remembering them. So there's a VC ladies group that meets and discusses across Germany. There's also an angel investing group called Evangelistas. There's Rising Tide. Yeah, so these are the ones that come to my head the easiest.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. And how is your team structured? How many men, women are there in it?
Yeah, so we're currently hiring the full team. We are 5 partners, 2 of them women, and the rest we are hiring, and we're definitely aiming a balanced team. Yeah, so all great women. We will soon put job posts out, but yeah, please reach out to us.
And are y'all okay with the women from any geography to join y'all, or only specifically Germany based?
Yeah, so our fund is based in Berlin, Copenhagen, and Stockholm, and we invest throughout Europe. And we would, for the start, like to have people who are based in either Berlin, Copenhagen, or Stockholm, just to get the initial culture. Yeah, and we're already traveling between these 3 locations, so we wouldn't want to open up now London office or so on. But nationality, whatever we actually would like more ethnical diversity, because we are diverse in terms of gender, education background, but we are all very very white and European. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm looking out for something anytime of my career, I will definitely reach out to you. Who
Yeah.
knows? You know? Yeah, but in terms of hiring, do you believe in this model of meritocracy or lockstep? Like, for example, if the first year is outperforming a fifth year professional in your company, do you compensate them equally, or how are their bonuses structured? Or are you a believer of that model, or you purely believe in the age and experience?
So in principle, of course, it depends on what you have achieved and how well you are performing. In practical terms, I think it's hard to, if someone in the first year outperforms someone who's in the fifth year, to say, hey, we double your salary or something like that. Yeah, because you can also not lower the salary of the guy in the fifth year. So either you need to fire him or her, or you you can say, hey, you don't get an increase. Yeah. So I think there are some practical boundaries, especially also in a country like Germany, where labor protection and so on is relatively strong, and someone that you hire with 5-year experiences will come from a higher paid base, and you will not even get him if you say, hey, but we all start at the same level or something like that. Yeah. So there are some practical boundaries to that, but in principle, if someone outperforms in the first year, she should get all the support and the bonuses to quickly grow and quickly get promoted and so on. Yeah, and of course she can also overtake others. Yeah, that's definitely realistic. Yeah.
Yeah, because you mentioned about the fact that you are hiring, I just thought of asking this question because it generally helps the audience also get to know of the trajectory in the firm. Yeah. But I just also lastly wanted to know about how have you helped your team grow in terms of making the right investments, getting the good deals, and making sure that you grow them at a level where you can give your LPs a good exit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing that every day, and I think it's a combination of finding these great companies, which I would split into early funnel, where I try to always find the sparkle. I try to speak to more women than men, but then also when you like a company, do a proper due diligence and not fall in love too early with the company. Still stay open to say no. Yeah, so I think that's the biggest risk. If you come to a certain point, you spoke 3-4 times with the founder, the rest of the team likes the case, that you just say, okay, we just go. I think you should still be open to say no if you really realize something is not so good. And then it's the portfolio work, and to help the companies where they most need it. I mean, you should not, as an investor, you should not be there every day, but with the important things like finding the next investors, positioning the companies, and so on, you need to be there and support them.
Yeah, and also why should founders specifically take money from your fund, those who are in climate tech, given that there are many funds in this space as well, especially when we consider the European region. So, what is that USP or a differentiating factor that your fund offers apart from the capital?
Yeah, I think we are still too few. Yeah, so I would love to see more funds and bigger funds. We need more money. So what differentiates us? So we are an Article 9 fund, so which is the European classification. We take it very serious. We have a partner, Stefan, who knows how to measure climate, how to report on it, and how to also use it to get other and additional funding. And other funds also do that, but I think we do that especially well. We are a diverse teams, yeah. So we have people who know the VC industry very well, who know complex financing structures very well, who know sustainability very well. We have engineers, we have business people, and they can obviously benefit from that. And we are 2 female GPs, yeah. So it's and that's actually for many of the companies also a plus, yeah, to work with us.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, when you see a women manager at the top, you indeed feel like you will have more opportunities as opposed to a fund led by a men where you will be in doubt. So it's always good to be 100% assured rather than having that 1% doubt also while you are running your business. But since you spoke of the fact that y'all have partners in your firm who know how to measure the impact that a startup is creating in terms of climate through the tech they have, I would love to also have them or you on board for the sessions we do. So what we do at Vibe is that apart from these interviews, we also educate women. We only have women's community where in different fields of private equity, maybe in gaming, in health tech, biotech, robotics, or even climate tech, we are doing shorter courses for these women to understand the practical aspects of how funds actually work. Because universities, even when we consider Harvard or Oxford, they don't teach all of these things. They just come and talk about the case studies. But how do you apply that in the practical world? It's really missing. So basis the survey we've carried out, we've started with these courses and would love to have y'all also talk about the climate tech industry if convenient.
Yeah, sure. I think so. Stefan would be the right. I hope you also take a man as.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Okay, yeah. Stefan would be the right person for that. Yeah.
Cool. Glad you enjoyed speaking. We've utilized our 1 hour very
I'll hear
nice.
from you with the video and all. Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.